you help from his sanctuary and support you from Zion. May he remember all your offerings and always accept favorably your sacrifices. May he grant you your heart's desire and fulfill your every counsel. We will rejoice in your deliverance and raise our banners in the name of our God. May the Lord fulfill all your wishes. Now I know that the Lord has delivered his anointed one, answering him from his holy heavens with the mighty saving power of his right hand. The mighty saving power refers to the left hand. And then it says, puts them together with his right hand. Which is the hand of kindness. Might is on the left and kindness is on the right. Some rely on chariots and cavalry, but we rely upon and invoke the name of the Lord our God. They bend and fall, but we rise and stand firm. Lord, deliver us. Lord, deliver us. May the King answer us on the day we call. Holy words. Holy words. King David, he sings to Hashem for all of us. Tanya, chapter 1. So we have 5 categories. We have tzaddikim, we have rishoyim, we have 2 of each, makes 4. Better and not so better. Better and not so great. Well, what is that all about? And then we have the question of free will. Am I born a tzaddik? Am I born a Rasha? Is there any hope? Of course there's hope. You're not allowed to think that you're a Rasha. We learned that on the first lines of the chapter. So what does that mean? I know I'm not living up to my potential. So, but maybe your potential is that you're a tzaddik. You just have to work a bit and just bring it out. Page 38 at the bottom. Hashem does not decree who is going to be righteous and who is going to be wicked. It's not. A person can lead, it says, a person can lead a very wicked life, all his life, just behaving very selfishly, and in the last minute, he can do tshuva and completely change everything, and all the negative things become positive things. Because that's the power, that is the tremendous power of tshuva. A person can actually change the past, can turn negative things into positive things. How does that work? Because tshuva is, nothing stands in the way of tshuva. When a person realizes how awful and how far-reaching is the bad things that he or she has done, and they're filled with the deepest remorse, and they cast their soul upon the mercy of Hashem. Well, how do you get to that? How do you get to that? How do you cast your soul upon the mercy of Hashem? Goodness gracious. Well, to get there, you really got to go down to the bottom till you hit bottom. And then it all bounces back up. And so all the negative things become fuel to completely give yourself over into the hands of Hashem. And so the classic example is a person from the Talmud 2,000 years ago, Rabbi Elazar ben Dordaya was his name. Rabbi Elazar ben Dordaya. He did, people think they're modern. To do the opposite of righteousness is as old as the hills. It's nothing new. There's nothing new. It's all been done before. And he did everything that you weren't supposed to do. And one day he went into the Beis Hamikdash. He sat down, put his head between his knees, and he began to cry. He wept and he wept and he wept until his soul went out. And a heavenly voice came out, and those people who heard heavenly voices heard what the voices said. Welcome, Rebbe Elazar ben Dordaya. He turned all the negative things into accomplishments because they were the fuel that motivated him to completely transcend his physical existence. That's the power of tshuva. Okay, so that's what it says at the bottom of page 38. Yeah, he does not decree who's going to be righteous and who's going to be wicked. Now we have the 12 Pesukim that the Rebbe taught to the children, and we're all children. And one of them is a Mishnah. We learned what Mishnah is. The Mishnah is the building blocks of the oral Torah. That means this is from Mount Sinai. What does it say there? Kol Yisrael Yeshlem Chelek Leilam Haba. Every single Jewish person has a share in the world to come. You have to claim it. So there's two routes. One route is a direct route. Not necessarily very exciting, but just where you do good and do more good and do more good until you're totally given over to carrying out the will of your maker. You become part of his retinue, part of his staff. Who else do you want to work for? And then there's the indirect route where you go the total opposite way. You go far, 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 far away. And then you turn back. But you see, that's how a whip works. How does a whip work? You just put things down. But a whip, you go back. Wow. Which is more powerful? And you go like that. But nobody's ever advised to take that route. Because we never know if you'll be successful to come back. In fact, there's even a saying, the idea is therefore put forward in the Talmud. And there was a certain teacher who even taught this in the time of the Baal Shem Tov, to deliberately go down a bad path in life in order to merit to come back. So the Talmud says, it's not going to work. Because if you're going down the bad path in life in order to come back, they make it very hard for you to come back. They don't help you. So you could come back. Everybody can come back. Nothing can stand in the way of tshuva. But to come back, if you do a transgression in order to come back, then you can't do tshuva on it, because tshuva has become the motivation of your transgression. The fact that you know that you can do tshuva says, I'll eat, drink, and be merry today, and tomorrow I'll do tshuva. So what is the motivating factor, the fuel of all his bad deeds is tshuva. So you can't do tshuva on doing tshuva. You can't do tshuva on relying to do tshuva to save you in the end. Doesn't work. Because we all know from our experience, somebody spoke to you, a girlfriend, a teacher, even a non-Jewish person. Somebody spoke to you and inspired you to come here, to get this far, to say, you know what, I think this is the right way to go in life. That's me. Who sent that person to you? Hashem. Hashem sent the person to you. Come on to Chabad house tonight. What? Chabad house? I don't go there. And then you did. And then one day, you liked it. Next week, you didn't have what to do, so you went again. And you end up in Mechon Liyados. That's called help. They help you. From heaven, they help you. The person says, I'm going to eat, drink, and be merry, and tomorrow I'll do tshuva. They don't help you. They make it hard. And to come back from that path in life requires extra spiritual strength. Okay, so that's Job. What did Job tell us? Job teaches us that it's never decreed who's going to be righteous and who's not going to be righteous. So now, page 39, the Tanya continues with this. It's really a Talmudic discussion to try and figure out who is a Beinoni. So we have to understand the essential nature. And the word there, they writes in brackets, the mahus. This is a question. What is the mahus of a thing? The mahus of the word ma means what? That's a question word. What is a question about something you don't know? What did you do? What is your name? What do you think? Who? All the question words are really not just questions. They're introducing a statement about what you don't know. Who, what, when, where are words that introduce questions. They introduce the unknown. So the word mahut is the whatness of the thing. I don't know what the whatness of the thing is. That's its innermost nature and essence. That's its essence. So we want to understand what is the mahut, or in Ashkenaz pronunciation, the mahus of the Beinoni. So now we're going to go through a series of eliminations. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome. Welcome. Glad you come. Don't be shy ever to come late. Whatever you come to hear is what you were meant to hear. So when you come late, girls, never be afraid, never be shy to open the door, but you should know that what you're about to hear was especially waiting for you to hear it. So we've said all along that the Beinoni, if there's good things in life and not good things in life, so the Beinoni is half and half. Sometimes he does good things, sometimes he does not good things. But we can't accept that explanation. Why not? Seems like a good explanation. And it says, it does say about Rosh Hashanah that a person's deeds are weighed on the scale. And if he has so many good deeds and so many not good deeds, so it's balanced. So before Yom Kippur, do a lot of good deeds to weigh down the balance for good. So it says that. So there is such a thing as a person does some good deeds and some not such good deeds. But the Alter Rebbe here is saying, no, but that's not going to help us to understand what the Beinoni is, because we see that Rabbah, and who was Rabbah? Rabbah is 2,000 years ago, a major figure in the Talmud, almost hardly a page in the Talmud that doesn't have his decisions on it, his statements, his understanding. Rabbah is like the Rebbe in our time, and always right. Always, he's like a prophet. God speaks through him. You know, they said about the Rebbe, any great scholars came to speak with the Rebbe, and they would speak in Torah learning, and they were amazed. No matter what they spoke about, it seemed like the Rebbe had just finished learning the subject. was like he just said a whole lecture on the subject. Everything was on the tip of his tongue. So Rabbah was such a person like that. How could he say he was a Beinoni? He never did anything wrong. He never did half and half. Sometimes he was righteous, and sometimes he was just sometimes maybe he'd go to a movie on Saturday. No, Rabbah doesn't do things like that. So if Rabbah says he's a Beinoni, that means that the Beinoni doesn't do things like that. Because he said, look at me, I am a classic example of the Beinoni. Not only that, now the Alter Rebbe proves see, the thing, the style of Torah is that everybody can have their opinions, but you have to prove it. How do you prove if your opinion is right or not right? How do you know? Well, do you have a pasuk in the Torah that backs you up? Is there something in the Torah that says, yes, exactly what you just said? Oh, so you have a source. In medieval times, one point in my life, I studied medieval literature. It's called authority. Auctorite in Old English. Auctorite. You have to have a rock of information that you know is 100% true, and you base your ideas on that. That's called auctorite. That's authority. So if we have authority, we have words from the Torah that back up our opinions, then they endure. Solid. Okay. So Rabbah says he's a Beinoni, and we see about Rabbah, the next line here on page 39. You have text, girls? You have a Tanya? Yeah. Page 39. His mouth, Leipzig Pume Megirsa. His mouth never stopped saying words of Torah. He was constantly saying words of Torah. How do I know? Because there's a testimony about him. Now, this is called from Haggadah. You know the Haggadah we read on Pesach, the Haggadah? Haggadah is a deeper level of teachings. It's part of the oral Torah. We have Torah. In the oral Torah, we have levels and levels. We have clear definitions of what is the right thing to do and what is missing the mark. Like we have a mitzvah to say Kriya Shema by a certain time in the morning, and if you sleep in, you didn't do it. That's part of the oral Torah. But then there are deeper things, deeper secrets that are revealed in the oral Torah. That's called Haggadah. Haggadah means I'm telling you very deep things. So in the Haggadah, it tells us about Rabbah, that when his time came, that from heaven they sent the Malach Hamavas, the angel, to take him away, to return his soul to its maker. The angel was frustrated and could not do its job. It was given a mission to fulfill, which was to take the soul of Rabbah and return it to heaven, and couldn't do it. Why? Because he never stopped saying Torah for a split second. Never stopped saying words of Torah. So if he never stopped saying words of Torah, and Torah is life, Torah is Chaim, it's called the love Torah of life. So there's no room for the opposite of life to get in. And the angel of death was frustrated, and he had to pull a card out of the deck. And Rabbah someone called him, he had to go downstairs, and the angel made sure that the step broke. He tumbled, and in midair, he stopped saying words of Torah and gotcha. That's what it says in that. How do you know that? That's a Haggadah. That's the Haggadah we read on Pesach. It's full of stories like this. Extraordinary things. So the angel of death had no power over Rabbah, so he surely didn't go to a movie on Saturday afternoon or the golf club. And he didn't eat cheeseburgers. So how could he consider that he was a Beinoni if half of the things a Beinoni does are the opposite of what Hashem wants? Heaven forbid. So we just eliminated the idea that a Beinoni is someone who's half and half. He's like, sometimes good and sometimes bad. No, that's that there are people like that, and that is a factor that's of importance on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, but that's not the Beinoni. The Beinoni obviously never does something that's the opposite of what Hashem wants. Furthermore, until the person does tshuva, he's a wicked person. Person has eats cheeseburgers is a wicked person. Against, you can't have milk and meat together. It's clear, it's stated 3 times in the Torah, not to have milk and meat together. It means, why 3 times? 1 time, not to eat them. Can't have milk and meat together and eat it. Second, it's another mentioned the second time, you're not allowed to prepare it. I'm not going to eat it, but I'm just cooking it. You have a roommate. You can't help her cook milk and meat together. Or to have meat and then afterwards to have a cup of coffee with milk. You didn't drink it, but you can't give it to her either. And a third time it says, don't have milk and meat together, to teach you that even if something is made with milk and meat together, you can't have any benefit from it. So if someone gives you a cheeseburger, you say, oh, I don't eat cheeseburgers. But I have a classmate, she's not Jewish, she could eat cheeseburger. Here, you want the cheeseburger? No, she's gonna be grateful to you, you're having benefit from it. So 3 times you can't have. So if a person does any of these things, he is not righteous. These are things that are against the law. You know, that's against the law. Going 90 on the freeway is against the law. And this is the Torah law. But all is not lost. Page 40. If the person does something that is against the law and then does tshuva, then he's not only he's not wicked, he's completely righteous. How can you say he's completely righteous? He just did something that's the opposite of righteous. Because I once heard this from the Rebbe, that when a person goes from the opposite of righteous to the realm of righteous, at one point he passes through the level of righteous, and then he goes beyond, because the Baal Tshuva is greater than a completely righteous person. So when he goes through that level of completely righteous, he's completely righteous. And then he keeps going. The Baal Tshuva is where a Baal Tshuva stands. Even the most completely righteous person cannot stand there. He doesn't know that address. He can't get there because he never did the wrong thing that the Baal Tshuva is doing tshuva on. So you can't elevate it. So Baal Tshuva elevates things that are beyond the pale, beyond where you're supposed to go. And he can elevate them. Similar concept, a person who converts to Judaism is born and grows up and lives a life in a non-Jewish body, and then becomes Jewish. They elevate the non-Jewish, every molecule of their non-Jewish being becomes elevated into holiness. A Jewish person can never do that. So that's a deeper reason why we have to treat converts with great respect and consideration, not just because we were once converts or we were once slaves in Egypt and so on. Okay, so a person can transform his life from completely the opposite of good to the completely beyond righteousness. How far do we take this idea of not being righteous? So look at the next line, page 40. Even maybe, okay, I can understand if I violate commandments, clear commandments of the Torah, don't cook the meat of a lamb in the milk of its mother. That's the actual phrase of the Torah. And that's how we know not to cook milk and meat together. Okay, that's a clear commandment. Don't do this. What about a teaching of the rabbis. We have a lot of teachings that the rabbis transmitted to us, which are not in the Torah as clear statements of mitzvahs, but they are rabbinical mitzvahs. And we treat them as even stricter than the mitzvahs written in the Torah. And what if some of them are even very, very, very minor mitzvahs. Like, for instance, you may think this is not a minor mitzvah. You may think it's a tremendous mitzvah. And it is, but it's not written in the Torah. Lighting a candle before Shabbos. Nowhere in the Torah does it say that a woman should light a candle or a man should light a candle in the home before Shabbos. It's one of there's 7 mitzvahs that the rabbis teach us. That's a big one. But then there are little ones, like if you have shoelaces, the Torah even teaches you, the rabbis teach you, how to tie your shoelaces. There's nothing the rabbis don't teach us. Put your right shoe on first before your left. Always give preference to the right, because the right is the side of kindness. But you tie your left shoe first. How come? Why? What's wrong with my right shoe? It says, well, tie the left shoe first. That reminds you to tie something else first. What do you tie first? If you're a man, that's your tefillin. So to remind you of the importance of tefillin, they say you should tie your left shoe first and take them up in the opposite order. So that's a minor thing, really. The person doesn't tie his right shoe first. The person doesn't tie his left shoe first. Do you say he's a sinner? That's what it says right here, page 40. It says, even a person who violates a minor prohibition of the rabbis is called wicked. And elsewhere in the Tanya, there's a whole book in Tanya about doing tshuva. The 3rd book is about doing tshuva. It gives an example there of a rabbinical discussion on the Sabbath. How do we know how to keep Sabbath? How to keep Shabbos? How do you keep Shabbos? Doesn't tell you in the Torah how to keep Shabbos. Just says Shabbos is a day of rest. But then how do you rest? How do you rest? I'll tell you a personal story. The first time I met a chassid from Chabad, he said the following words to me. Listen carefully, write them down if you need to. You never know when you're going to repeat this teaching to somebody else. He said, anybody who ever keeps Shabbos knows that it's categorically different from any other day of the week. That was the first time I met a chassid. That's what he said. It was an evening with Chabad. There were about 5 people there in a little forsaken corner in the middle of nowhere. And he said that. And I said, okay, I can understand that as an idea, but I never kept Shabbos, so I don't know. And we parted company. But he planted a seed. And Hashem arranged various things that happened to me during that week, during the next few days. And I said, you know, I think you could use a day off. I was working very hard. And I said, I think you could use a day off. Why not take a day off on the Saturday? That's the day of rest. So you'll have a rest. And if it's really a day of rest in the whole universe, so you'll be in harmony with everything. Have even better rest. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I mean, I knew things from my house. My mother used to light candles. Sometimes my father would make kiddush. We'd have chicken soup. The family would come. We'd all eat together. But that was the extent of keeping Shabbos. We didn't go to synagogue. Well, if there was a bar mitzvah, so we went to synagogue because we were invited. So I had to figure out what am I going to do? Now, I had a little booklet. I had an uncle who was very, very involved with the reform movement, and they put out a book, and somehow it came into my hands, and I had it with me, about the Sabbath, written by our local rabbi. And I read it. I didn't like the book. I really didn't like the book. It seemed to me a lot of double talk. At the back of the book, however, there was a Mishnah, a long Mishnah, about what constitutes work on Shabbos. And there are 39 kinds of work that are all exclusive. Not one is the same as the other. I read that and I said, wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. I could not possibly think of 39 possible different kinds of work. What constitutes work? And it demanded respect. I said, so that's what Shabbos is all about. Well, it's not what Shabbos is all about, but that's how you have to keep Shabbos. That's how I learned it, from the source. That made a big difference to me. And I realized I was doing a lot of things that you're not supposed to do, because I didn't have any heat. I had to have a fire in the house where I lived to have hot water, to have heat, to cook, to have food to eat. I had to have a heater to heat the room, all kinds of other things. And it made a very dramatic difference between what we would call day-to-day life and keeping Shabbos. And when the day was over and I saw the sun setting behind the hills, I thought, this was really amazing. And I didn't really do it right, because I see all these mistakes I made. I couldn't wait to try it again, try and do it better. Now, one of the 39 kinds of, so that's the statement, remember it. Anybody who ever keeps Shabbos knows it's categorically different from any other day of the week. It's like a challenge to try it. You try it and you say it's right. It's 100% right. It's a completely different, nichnas Shabbos, nichnas menucha. The non-Jewish world that doesn't keep Shabbos, they don't know what it's all about. Can't know. It's learned by experience. Now, one of the things that they debate, one of the 39 kinds of labor, it's not a hard thing to do. It's not hard work. It's carrying from private house into the street, or carrying from the street into the house. And it gives an example. A person's in his house, he has food, and there's a poor person outside, he has a basket, and you pick up the food in your house, you go reach out the window, and you put it in the poor man's basket. You just transferred property from your private house to the public domain, to the street. That's a major form of work on Shabbos. Why? Why is that so hard work? It's not hard work. What about carrying my keys in my pocket or a credit card? Yes, that's major work. Why? Because that's the basis of our economy. The whole world runs on the transfer of property from place to place. All economics of the world is based on that. Which nation is delivering drones to Ukraine? So the debate goes on this subject. What does it mean carrying? So in the time of the Talmud, what am I getting at? This is a minor prohibition, okay? So a major prohibition is carrying. What happens if I have a cow or I have a bull? I'm a farmer. I have an animal. And the animal has horns. And it was a custom amongst farmers who had a herd of cows or beef that they would decorate the animal with ribbons between the horns. So the sages ask a question. You are not allowed to work on Shabbos. Work is transferring property. What about your animal? Yes, your animal has to rest on Shabbos just like you. You're not allowed to work your animal on Shabbos. while you rest. So the animal's not allowed to rest, to work. Is the animal allowed to carry on Shabbos? If I have a load, a knapsack, my wallet with a lot of money in it, can I put it on an animal and let the animal carry it home for me? No. Animal is not allowed to carry. Same as you. Torah says clearly, your animal has your son, your daughter, your animal, your slave, not allowed to carry. What about, I know my animal can't carry my knapsack with all my belongings in it, my suitcase, can't carry my suitcase. Can my animal go out with ribbons between the horns? Is that called carrying? The sages discussed it. They argued about it. Some said yes, some said no. And then they took a vote. You go by the majority. And the majority said, yes, that's carrying. And there was a certain rabbi that he didn't have animals, but his neighbor was a farmer. The neighbor used to put these ribbons on the horns of his beef, of his animals. And he saw this. And he didn't say anything. He didn't say anything. Didn't say, you really shouldn't do it. And because he didn't support the teachings of his fellows, he did a tremendous tshuva. Not because he didn't even do it. He didn't prevent his neighbor from doing it. And on that he felt, because he didn't support the teachings of his colleagues, on that he had to do tshuva. So this is what it says here. Even a person who violates a minor prohibition of the rabbis, who doesn't protest when his neighbor's bull goes out with ribbons between its horns, is called wicked in the Gemara, and it tells you where to look in the Gemara of Yevamos, chapter 2, and in the Gemara of Nida, having family, chapter 1. So, who's a Beinoni? Who's on this level? That if that's called a wicked person, how in the world? We're all wicked, according to this. We're not on that level. So who's the Beinoni? Come back tomorrow.